I'm Karaleigh Garrison, and this is Seeking Sunshine, where we find the positive in the trials of life. There are times when life just brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Do you like this song as much as I do? Ooh, it just gives me goosebumps and makes me want to dance. I am in love with this new version of Seeking Sunshine. This is the title song for my album that is going to come out probably around next February. If you want more information, please sign up and subscribe for emails from my website. My website is KaraleighGarrison.com. Do you have a story to share? I would love to interview you for my podcast. I want to hear all about you and what you've been through and how you've been able to seek sunshine in your journey. Please reach out to me. You can send me a message in DMs on social media, or you can even send me an email at KaraleighGarrison@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I hope that you are having an incredible 2023 and that you are ready for February, because it's coming up like pretty soon. Today, oh my gosh, today's episode is just one for the books. Today I have an incredible guest named Meegan Winters. She's the CEO and co-founder of AbleEye and AbleVu. Her experience as a special ed teacher teaching students on the autism spectrum, paired with her real-life experience of having a best friend who was a wheelchair user, sparked the idea behind what is now a worldwide business helping people of all abilities access the community and travel with confidence and comfort through the use of virtual tours, pictures, and text information in one easy to access free platform. You guys, her idea and everything that she has done with it is literally going to change the world. Her story is incredibly inspiring. She persevered through so much, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet her and for you guys to hear this story. It's really amazing. So welcome, Meegan, and thank you so much for being on the Seeking Sunshine podcast. Welcome, Meegan, to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just dive in. I want to hear all about you, especially like how you have, why did you get into the field that you're in? And we can talk all about that. I'm super interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. So my background as far as professionally is I was a special education teacher, and I taught students on the autism spectrum in particular. That was always my area of interest. So I guess backing up further than that is one of my best friends back to high school, I volunteered at a muscular dystrophy camp. And so the camper that I was assigned to, her name was Jessica. And Jessica and I became lifelong friends from that point on. And so that was like my beginning of like working with children with different needs, or being introduced to people with different needs. Then after high school, back when you could look in the newspaper for a job,
Those were the days.
Yeah, I saw a job that was working with children with special needs, and I really didn't know what it was, but it was working as a behavioral aid in home for children that were part of the waiver program. So the waiver program, and I don't know that this is the same in all states or not, but here in Michigan, children that would be possibly at risk of being removed from their family home due to volatile behaviors, things of that nature would be that those kids could qualify for the waiver program, which allows those families to receive respite care or in-home like behavioral aids. And that's what I was. I was a behavioral aid. And so I worked
That's
in home.
amazing. And no, they do not have that in every state. Utah happens to be a state that is very far down on the pole. Like Utah does not have good services, unfortunately. But that is an amazing thing, a service to be able to provide people, because we've been in that kind of position, and I've known a lot of people who have struggled where they're getting, beaten up by their kids when they're in these meltdowns, and it's just a really
Yeah.
hard situation.
Yeah, and the services are pretty comprehensive. So I was available. I would do as much as put a child on a bus. So I would arrive in the morning, wake the child up, get the child ready, go through the morning routine to getting on the bus, and then I would go home for the school day, and then I would arrive back at their home at the end of school. I would take the child off the bus and maybe stay as long as putting them to bed. And it wasn't at all like I was taking the place of the parent. It was a very collaborative effort. And so I became really close with these families. There was, behavior plans in place, and we had, there's occupational therapists and speech therapists that would come into the home, and I would kind of help implement those programs. And so that's when I was introduced to autism, is like through that experience. So my experience with Jessica was very much physical disabilities. And then I was introduced to autism through this behavioral aid position. And that's when I decided, like, this is what I'm super, super interested in. I really enjoyed like the challenge of it. I enjoyed the growth, having an impact on this child's life and their family's life. And so I decided I changed my major. At that time, had just started college. I changed my major to special education. And then I stayed in that position through all of college until I graduated. And kind of on and off, depending on which college I was at. But so yeah, then I graduated with a special education degree. I went right into teaching, and I taught students on the autism spectrum. So I got my dream job right off the bat.
Which, can we just talk about yes, that job is insanely rewarding and there is a lot of beauty to it, but it's also got to be one of the hands down hardest jobs. And like the pay for it is pretty close to nothing. I have so much just love and respect for all of my kids' teachers. And we've certainly had times where my kids have pulled out chunks of their hair and they've been scratched and bruised. And I just I adore them. They're incredible people. And so I always want to look at both sides of the coin in this podcast. And it's yes, that is a really, really, I've seen the rewards. I've seen how beautiful it is to watch kids learn and grow, and to see my own son go from being completely nonverbal to talking nonstop, and how incredibly rewarding that is, but also how hard that job is, day in and day out. And it's not even necessarily that the kids make it so hard, although I'm sure that they do, but the working in a school system and having the administrative parts, I've heard those are just really, really draining for teachers.
Yeah, and it definitely, so I loved the classroom and I loved the students very, very much. But, some of the things that you just spoke to, and I loved my school building, and I loved so many of the people that I worked with, but there's just so many pieces to education that are challenging and out of your hands, and some things, testing is crazy. That it was starting to get better around the time I left the school district, but the accountability for doing state testing. I'm working with children that have significant cognitive delays and might be nonverbal. How do you possibly test? So
you can't. You can't summarize a child by a test, by a singular test. You cannot fit a whole person into that little box. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's how I felt. And we would spend so much time in prepping for those tests, not like prepping for the answers, that's illegal, but for like, what can we do legally to like communicate with a child that like asks the question. So we would like, print off pictures of what the answers were. So if it was an answer about which body part is this, and then it would have an arrow pointing to an arm, and then we would have like you would have to like come up with creative ways to like communicate with kids so that they could answer the question. So
Yeah, because it's not about like they have the knowledge, so maybe not all the time, certainly not all the time, but those tests struggle to accurately test the knowledge that students actually have because of these learning disabilities, where it's like they're not processing the question itself. How do you answer the question accurately if you're not even sure what the question is asking?
Right. So yes, you're so right. There are definitely were some challenging parts to education, but I loved the classroom so much. And I've had to get past my shame for this, but I think I was a really great teacher, and because of that, my administration, had asked me multiple times to consider becoming a teacher consultant for other teachers that teach students on the spectrum, and I said no, several times, and eventually ended up filling in for somebody that was having a surgery. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll fill in for this position for a little while. And the surgery, like recovery was like delayed again. And then when she came back, she took another position as a supervisor. And so now this position that I was sitting in was open, and I was, the person that at least somewhat knew the job. And so I just kind of took it as a sign and went along with it. And so I was a teacher consultant for 1 year, and then that position dissolved into an assistant principal. So then I was an assistant principal for 3 years, and that was a lesson. That was a lesson, is what that was.
It's a great way to look at it. That's a great way to like see sunshine in a difficult time.
Yeah, administration is hard. A lot of what you do as an administrator is you listen to the negatives or the complaints of both parents and staff. There are positives too, but I realize that, just because you are a good teacher or enjoy teaching, you aren't necessarily going to enjoy administration.
Well, and they're totally different because you're not working hands-on with students as an administrator.
Yeah.
Which, teaching, that's what it's all about, is like being in the depths with the kids. And administrator, you're like, nope.
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
Separate.
So interestingly, when I went into that position as an assistant principal, I told the principal, who she was starting the same year. So her first year as principal was my first year as assistant principal. So it was a whole new administration.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was interesting, to say the least. We were very close, and I really thoroughly enjoyed working with her. But when we went into this, I said, I'm going to give you 3 years. Like, I can't guarantee you more than 3 years, but I'll guarantee you 3 years, like, so that you can get our feet under us and like figure out, what this whole administration thing is, as we're kind of changing over this building. And so it came up to 3 years. And so I was halfway through it was probably the beginning of my 3rd year. And I said, I'll give you 4 years, I guess. Like, I didn't really have another thing that I knew I was confident in moving forward with, but it was just kind of okay, I'll give you a 4th year.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you're like, I'm not quite ready for change. This isn't my life yet. This isn't like my goal, but
yeah. However, the universe had a different plan for me.
Oh, so it happens. Yes.
Yes. So that 3 years that I said earlier was what was meant to be. So in the midst of all this, so when I was a teacher, I went to a conference in Chicago, and it was for Apple when they first started using iPads in the classrooms. And so they were kind of teaching us as teachers how to use them, and what kind of possibilities there were with the use of that technology, which was amazing. I loved this. I loved learning, and I loved technology and using it for communication. And but while at that conference, I saw a virtual tour for the first time. So virtual tours being like what you see on Google Maps, where you can like click through spaces. And ironically, this had nothing to do with the conference. We were literally standing in line at a bar after the conference was over with a group of teachers, and we were just like talking to people in line. And this is where I saw this thing that changed my life. So we're standing in line, and this person shows us a virtual tour that they were doing it for hospitals at the time. So very much for the marketing in the marketing world.
Okay, so a virtual tour, is this somebody who's basically filmed like what it would look like for you to walk through like a hospital or whatever?
Yep. So you would click through. So you have the ability to click through from your computer or tablet or phone or whatever. So it's like you can find them on Google. Google Maps has some, and then also if you're house hunting, like a lot of times if you're looking at houses, you can click through the houses. So all the same type of thing. So he's showing us this tour of a hospital, and I just had the most divine like moment of my life where I was just like, this is it. Like, this is the thing that could make such a difference for families that have children on the spectrum. And so I'm like rambling on to this guy about it. I'm like, so I work with students on the spectrum. We use, visual strategies where we use visual schedules, we use visual icons, and when there's something that's out of routine, like an assembly or a field trip, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. We're creating social stories and taking pictures and taking videos to prepare students for this thing that's out of routine, because breaking that routine can cause behaviors and stress for everybody. And I'm sure as a parent, I completely understand that. So this was back in 2011. So I sat on that idea for many years. And in 2017, which was year 3 of my being an assistant principal, I was introduced to somebody that did in my area that does virtual tours for marketing purposes. And so I was introduced to him. We had a meeting. I kind of told him about my idea, and he was like, let's do it. Let's create this thing. And I was like, okay, like, let's do it. So I quietly spent like February through the beginning of the summer of 2017, like creating the website and creating the logo and getting some of the preliminary stuff for the website kind of prepared. But again, I was not planning on leaving it because I said I would give her year 4. And in July, I received a phone call from Human Resources saying, hey, Meegan, we have a problem. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, well, your administration program that you completed through Penn State did not transfer to Michigan.
And this is 3 years in, and they're like, oh, hey, all of a sudden you don't have the credentials anymore.
Well, you're allowed 3 years to get your credentials. Okay. So it was like, and I had finished the program in January. So the program was finished. It had I had gotten a raise, but you have to turn it into the state apparently that time of year. And so I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, you can't be an assistant principal anymore. And I was like, okay. And they were very, very kind and like trying to offer me other positions like within the school that I still could be a special education supervisor. I could go back into the classroom, or I could be a teacher consultant. So I still had a lot of options, but assistant principal was not one of them. And so
the bureaucracy is just,
ugh. Yeah. Yes. But I took that as a sign that, you know what, it was meant to be 3 years. So I politely declined all of those positions and walked away from the school at the end of that school year. And if this isn't a sign from the universe, I don't know what is. But my last day at the school and the first day of AbleVu was Friday. I had a weekend in between, and then Monday was the launch of AbleVu, which of course was 7 months in the making. So there was no, like, it wasn't planned that way. It just happened to be that when we got to the finishing point of creating AbleEyes, which I'll explain a little bit more in a second, it turned out that the last day of my school was Friday. I had a weekend, and then was the start of this thing that I've been dreaming about.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. So, so I walked away from, almost $100,000 salary, all of our health benefits for our family. My husband was self-employed also. So, we had to kind of figure out, navigate through all of that, which was so scary. But my husband was like so supportive. And I kept toying with the idea, like, do I find another job to like supplement while I'm figuring this other thing out? And at the end of the day, it just never felt right. I was offered some really great positions. And it just never felt right. So I just went all in and started what is now AbleEyes and AbleVu from the ground up. So what it is it's a platform that think of it as Yelp, I suppose. So it's a virtual tour platform where users can like find virtual tours in a particular area so that they can explore them ahead of time. So whether that's a family that has a child on the spectrum that just needs to prepare for this new thing, or if it's somebody like my friend Jessica that needed to, find mobility-wise if she could fit into a bathroom. And I guess speaking of that, that's a really important part of my story that I've kind of have missed a little bit onto is, so Jessica passed away about 7 years ago as a result of her muscular dystrophy. And so much of like, I had told her about this dream that I had. She was so supportive of it. And so I think her passing is probably another like piece of this puzzle of like, it's something that like after she passed, finally, like I had the courage to move forward with this thing and pursue it. And so much of what I do is in honor of her. And I know that she's along for the ride and so proud of everything that we've accomplished. So.
That is so beautiful.
Well, thank you.
So beautiful. And I do want to add on that that is also a really, like, I'm totally gonna go look this up because I actually had not heard of it before. But my son perseverates on like places and people. And so we have like a book of pictures that we've printed off of like places. And he'll be like, this one park in this one neighborhood that grandma used to live in Texas. And like, I want that. And so like with this kind of technology, he could actually like be in those places that he's been perseverating on nonstop and enjoy that instead of just being like, oh, here's whatever picture somebody on the internet took.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we don't have a ton in your area yet, but that also leads me into kind of the new and exciting that's to come. So I spent 5 years basically solopreneuring, just figuring out as I go. I don't have any business background. I had no idea what I was doing. I figured everything out through like Google and YouTube.
Which is amazing. Which is amazing. Like the entire just thing that you did, like even aside from all of the like just incredible like benefits to humanity, like that is such a hard thing to no longer have that stable, steady job with all the benefits and all the things, and to just go and do it. Go live that dream. Like that takes such a leap of faith. That takes such courage and strength to do that.
It was honestly like the scariest thing that I've ever done. And like looking back on it now, I was trying to think about, because I was looking through your podcast, and I was like looking at the titles, and I was kind of thinking like, what would this be called? Like, what would my story be called? And so like I thought like seeking sunshine through change, or like seeking sunshine through like following your heart, which is hard but so worth it.
Ooh, I love that. By the way, I have no idea. I don't pick out the names until I'm like ready to publish.
No, but I was like I was also like trying to feed that into like what story I was going to tell, or what version of the story, or like where I would focus. But I really have told you just about all of it anyways. But
that's amazing. That story is amazing. So tell us more about AbleVu and this business and like what it does and how it has progressed? Because I'm sure it's not the same place it was 5 years ago.
No, definitely not. So it started as AbleEyes, and now there's a second part called AbleVu, and I will definitely tell you about that because that was just another one of those courage type things. Um, so AbleEyes, certainly, I mean, at first I was literally picking up the phone, walking into businesses, telling them about this amazing new platform and what, because some businesses already have virtual tours. And if they do, they can add it to our platform. And if they don't have virtual tours, we'll provide it for them or find somebody to go do that for them. So it can be one or the other. So I was just doing sales essentially, which is something I've never done and I'm very uncomfortable doing. So I still have my first check for $100 from someone that was, so they already had a virtual tour and they wanted to add it to our platform. And so it really just was started out just sitting in front of my little secondhand MacBook that I bought because I was the assistive tech coordinator at the school too. So I had all of the technology that I could ever dream of, like at my fingertips. And so when I was done at the schools, I of course had to return everything. And so I went to the little secondhand Mac store and I had this like ancient MacBook that I was just like figuring it out on. And so it took about a year to get at least one virtual tour in at least 48 out of 50 states. So not Hawaii and Alaska. So it took about a year and a half to do that. We've developed some like amazing partnerships. Then of course, COVID happened.
So I do want to ask, and this is super random and it's just coming to my mind. Do you happen to have Morgan's Wonderland in San Antonio, Texas?
No, I've reached out to them because they
Okay.
do have a virtual tour. And so with the new platform, I think it will be a better fit. So with AbleVu, I think it will be a better fit. I better go into that story. So
Yeah, I was gonna say Morgan's Wonderland's a special needs theme park. You probably already know that. But for anyone who
yeah,
doesn't know that, like it's a really like they seem like they'd be a good place to help you get word out to
yes,
family.
absolutely. That is one of my goals is to get them for sure. So the difference between AbleEyes and AbleVu. So originally, AbleEyes is the platform where people go to find the virtual tours, and also it's the photography company where we create people ask and we create the virtual tours. So in this January, I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is. He's big in the real estate world. He is a billionaire. He's an author. He's a public speaker. He does all the things in like the business world. And so anyways, he has a book called 10X. It's probably one of the things he's most known for is this 10X. This is kind of his brand. So anyways, he wrote this book called 10X. I had it several years ago. I opened the book several years ago and started reading it. And I was like, ew, like, I don't like this guy. I'm shutting this book and I'm putting it away. Like he was just so intense. And so in January, I was cleaning out a cupboard and I find this book again and I start reading it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this a try again. So I start reading this book and it definitely resonated. I resonated with it so much more this time around, just a different point in life, in business. And so I was, I had been talking about it with my husband. We were in the Miami area for a wedding, which is also where Grant's from. And so like, I don't know, of course I was talking about him. And so all of his like social stuff started popping up all over my life. And so once we got back from Miami, it popped up that Grant was live. And so I like kind of curiously like clicked on it. I was like, I wonder what this is. And it was a pitch competition, kind of like Shark Tank, but for tech companies. So I watched this show for a little while and I went to the website and was poking around and I definitely tried to talk myself out of it. I was like, no, like this is not for me. I'm not big enough. I'm not good at
So I mean, just
all the
talk
things
about
that we
like divine intervention of just like leading you right there.
Yes. You are not kidding me. Like, it is crazy. Um, so I like certainly tried to like talk myself out of it, but then I was like, you know what? No, like just do it. Like, what's the worst that happens? They say no or they don't respond. Like, nothing to lose. So I applied for this pitch competition, and a couple of weeks later, they responded and asked me to be on the show. And yes, it was so exciting. And so I had a 5 minute pitch, and as soon as I was done pitching with my 5 minutes, the host of the show, Jared Yellen, he said, "I totally get this. Like, I get why this is important in the world. I get why this is needed in the world. My wife is an occupational therapist. She works with students on the spectrum. Like, I get this." And I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like, thanks the Lord. What are the chances that the person on the on the other side of this is that familiar with like why I do what I do?"
I feel like it's actually everywhere. Like when we're in our own little bubbles of life, we're like, nope, this is just me. No one else really gets this. And then as you like talk about it and you get it out there, it's like everyone has a connection to autism.
Yeah,
Everyone has a connection to somebody with special needs or disabilities. Everyone has that connection and it can unite us.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope what we're doing, really does, start to educate people and bring people together in just exactly that way that you're speaking of. Um, so basically from like February to June was a lot of like back and forth and due diligence. And they do that in Shark Tank too. They just don't talk about it, where they like, dive into your financials and your tax returns and figure out your business model. And
That sounds
it
so
was
invasive.
it was painful. It was so painful, but it was worth it. So in June, we finally signed all the documents and went into partnership. So we are now co-founders of AbleVu with this tech incubator. It's called Project 10K. And it has been the most amazing ride. The product, well, first of all, I have other human beings on my team. I have, like I said, I've been solopreneuring, or I've been paying for services. So, I need this thing done on the website and I'll pay for a service, or I need this thing done for social media and I'll pay for a service. But I've never had a team of people that all have like a similar vision where we're bouncing ideas off of each other. And, somebody that can tell me, no, that's not a good idea. Or, where we can just go, it's been amazing. I have website people and marketing people, and like,
That's so cool.
unreal. I can't even believe it's my life sometimes.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so the new platform. So AbleVu is going to be just the platform. So just where people go to find virtual tours, and where businesses go to add their business profiles. Able Eyes is just the photography company to create virtual tours for businesses that want them. So that's where the two different businesses come in, and I felt like I
Which
needed to explain.
that makes sense that they're separate.
Yes,
I can see
yes,
that.
and the new version is so beautiful, and I think it offers so much value to both businesses and users. So a business will sign up for a business listing. So let's say it's the Utah Museum, and they sign up for a business listing. They can add a virtual tour if they have one. They can also, if there is, they have photos that they'd like to share, maybe something that wasn't in the virtual tour, or maybe something changed from the time they had the virtual tour. There are options to add photos with text information to also explain their accessibility features. There's an accessibility like checkboxes where they can share what they do have, but it does not say what they don't have. That's really, really important piece of what we do. Is it's a tool of empowerment and not of like rating, judging, or criticizing. It's like information to empower people to make decisions on their own needs. And then one of the other features that I'm super excited about is that a user can ask a business a question. So for example, the Utah Museum, a user could say, do you have a quiet room? And the museum would receive an email, and they could respond to that, and they can decide whether to make that public or private. So if they think it's relevant to the general population, they can add it below their listing so people can see it. And if they don't, they can keep it private. And that decision was made so that people aren't complaining about accessibility like publicly. Like that's not, again, not what we're trying to do. But by having those questions answered below, you're saving all those phone calls, because that's what people do. They have to call and ask those questions, and everyone's short staffed. So if they can just go to one place and hopefully find the information that they need to make their decision, then they don't have to call. So
amazing.
yes, I'm
That's
so excited.
That's so amazing.
So that will be the projected launch date is January 4th for that. So right around the corner, AbleVu should be live, and Able Eyes will continue to create the virtual tours that go on AbleVu. So I just feel so blessed for this journey. It's like, I mean, I just told you so many years of my life, but it was like some of the darkest times and the lightest times all together. I mean, there were times where certainly our bank account said like $0, because like it was just up and down. I mean, some months were great and some months were not, and it was just like a learning curve. And so I feel like we had this amazing breakthrough of going into partnership with this tech company. We've partnered with Pure Michigan, which is our statewide marketing agency for the state, and so we started an initiative that is called Able Eyes Accessible Cities. So an Able Eyes Accessible City is a city that has a minimum of 5 restaurants, 5 hotels, and 5 attractions that have virtual tours. So people know that at minimum they can eat, play, and stay at a place and see a minimum of 5, 5, and 5.
That's amazing. And I could totally see like city governments wanting to have that and having that be like a thing they could check off of, like, we are an accessible city. Like, that's amazing.
Yes, and it's been really well received. And so here in Michigan, we have partnered with 6 different cities, like through that program. And then we have other cities throughout the country. But so I'm hoping that we, develop some of those relationships with other government entities as well, and extend that into other states, because I think it's really going to make a difference in those families that maybe don't feel like they can travel, or feel like they can have these experiences. And that's why we do this. I talk to parent after parent after parent that just, they don't have any gas left in the tank. Like all of the have to, like you have to go to the doctor, you have to go to the dentist, you have to go to the grocery store. But like, then is there any energy left for the want to? Like,
well, and
even
then preparing for the want tos, like all of that work that's involved in preparing, like there's so much to just like that can go wrong. And if you have the chance to prepare, then that makes it all easier. But then it takes so much more work to prepare, especially if that resource isn't available.
Right. But if it's all in one place, it can make that so much easier. Like if you were to just type in a city and you knew that like we can go eat here and we can sleep here and we'll go here during the day. Like these are the 3 things that we're going to do that day. And you can, hand an iPad to your child and they can look at it 50 times if they want to prepare.
Which is a legit thing. For anybody who doesn't know what perseveration is, it's when a child or a person just is really, really, really obsessed with something, and then they just need it over and over and over and over again. And so my son right now is really, really obsessed with saying phrases, specific things over and over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter how you respond to him, that's what he wants to focus on, and he can't get his brain off of it. And so for all those people who get really stuck on something when it's inaccessible, like a museum that you maybe don't live nearby, that you went to once 5 years ago, and all of a sudden it's stuck in your head and you can't get it out, like this is such a beautiful tool to help with that.
Yeah. And my big dream for it is that, I am like envisioning, of course, this being something that's worldwide, but also I dream of the day that parents are sending us messages, and they do now, but I'm excited for like the grander scale of, when a parent sends us a message and says, I just want to thank you for having this resource in the world, because my family and we went to Disney for the first time, and I didn't think that would ever be possible, or something like that, like something that someone thought they would never be able to do, they now can do because this thing exists in the world.
Yay. That's amazing. I am blown away by this thing that you have created and how much it's going to change the world. I do want to talk more about what the really hard parts were like and how you were able to get through before this big breakthrough happened and before everything started like lining up and falling into place. When it was like, I have this brilliant idea that everyone needs that's going to change the world, but so far I'm the only one who's super behind it. What was that like, and how did you keep going when it was back when it was just you and your husband?
Well, it basically took this long. It basically took 5 years. I think that more and more people, maybe in the last couple of years, certainly have come on as supporters. Really early on, I think they were leery supporters, like, I mean, maybe this could be something. But I have never wavered in my knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do in the world. That doesn't make the hard parts, well, maybe it does make the hard parts a little bit easier, but it doesn't take them away. Like I said, there were several times during these 5 years where we're like, okay, like I'm not really sure what we're gonna do financially, because my husband, like there were years, like not just months, but there were probably 2 years where I was not paying myself anything, and so we were 100% relying on my husband's income, and then obviously COVID happened too, so that was a plus and a minus. I think it was obviously a minus because everything was shut down, so we couldn't do what we do. The thing that I think did change for the positive is that it created a lot of awareness around virtual tours. So now people are like, oh, virtual tours, I'm really familiar with those things, and I really understand why those are valuable, because I wish that my business would have had a virtual tour during COVID, when all of these other businesses already had them. I wish we would have had one. So yeah, I mean, there's even, everyone has said supportive words, for the most part. I mean, it's obviously something that's doing good in the world, but I don't know that everyone actually had true faith, and I had to like set that aside and like realize that this is not something for them. Like, I'm not doing this for approval from anybody. It was really something that I was doing for me and doing for the world. And so those are the things that got me through the hard times.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that confidence rooted in like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I just wish we could all have that level of confidence and like know for sure. I do want to talk more about COVID for a second, because it's really interesting to see how everyone experienced COVID. Because for the most part, it was like there were goods and bads, which is true of everything. For us, it was we had one of our worst years ever the year before that. So COVID hit and I was like, oh, this is it. We just have to stay home. That was not so bad. But like COVID brought out, it really changed the world in so many fundamental ways, bringing awareness to mental illness and to disabilities on a level that has just not existed before. And so I hope that has helped your business with AbleVu and AbleEyes to bring, all of a sudden everyone's going, oh, we need to make sure that we are accommodating, because now it's a thing that people are talking about that we just kind of were not, it just wasn't at the forefront of everyone's awareness before.
You're right. And I haven't really been able to put my finger on why COVID did that, other than maybe there was more time for people to focus on something different. But you're right. Like, now this entire country and world is focusing on DEI efforts, which that's diversity, equity, inclusion, and then the A is access. And so like some people, like a lot of organizations now have DEI like positions. Like, there is a person that is their 100% role, is to make sure that their business is inclusive for employees that are a part of their organization.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yep. And so those are the types of people that I have ended up talking to in a lot of cases, are the people that are, in charge of accessibility, because even outside of community and outside of travel, kind of the third pillar of why somebody might want to look at AbleEyes is for employment, for AbleVu. It was for employment. So maybe somebody wants to work at the Utah Museum. There's a position open, they see it, they're maybe interested in it, but they're nervous about it. So it's really helpful to know if you can see that environment ahead of time.
That's a great point. And one that just occurs to me, my husband's dealt with all sorts of things, but one of them is like migraines caused by certain kinds of lighting. And so to be able
Yeah.
to look at that and be like, you can tell even in pictures, like maybe what kind of lighting that they have in places, and like, is this gonna like make me sick all day? Is this something I could even handle? And just how many different types of things like that, like somebody might want to look at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The testimonials that we get are incredible, and the market research that we've done goes so far beyond what I envisioned. So I, in my mind, envisioned things like restaurants, hotels, movie theaters, things that people do in the community. I actually had someone reach out not too long ago asking for a virtual tour of a domestic violence shelter. And we wouldn't be able to put it on AbleEyes because of the location. Because we wouldn't want to give away the location of it, or we'd have to change the location of it. But think about that. Like, think about a woman that is in a domestic violence situation and wants to get out, is too nervous, or feeling really anxious about making that change. How helpful would it be to know that this is the place I'll be going? This is the place that makes me feel safe. So having the ability to see that place ahead of time could literally save a woman's life.
That's absolutely incredible. And especially like how many times are there little kids involved where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to this new place. I've never been there. I have no idea what to expect. Whereas it was with this technology, it's like, oh, we're gonna go here. This is exciting. This is an adventure. And like
Yeah.
trying to comfort, the adult in the situation, but also the little kids. Like I just talked to somebody not too long ago who was homeless and had her two little kids with her, and it was like all up in the air, and it's like you have no idea what's going to happen. And when you can be more mentally prepared, like envisioning like this is what it's going to look like, this is where I'll be, like how much safer that feels. Like
Mm-hmm.
it calms anxiety, it calms fears, it does so much good.
Yep, absolutely. And I'd say the other interesting one that I had never, maybe there's two that I hadn't anticipated, was we just did some market research going into creating AbleVu, and so asking for feedback from users. And somebody responded, or not, several people responded. They said, I am a person of size, and it is hard for me to go into a restaurant. I can't go to a restaurant that has seats that have arms on them because then it's uncomfortable for me, or just booths. So it's important to me to know what kind of seating options there are in a restaurant. And I mean, probably not something like that people want to call and ask the question about, but if you
Well,
could
and
just,
how embarrassing to walk in and then have to turn around and walk back out. Like,
right.
oh my goodness. I this is kind of irrelevant. I had gastric sleeve surgery 2 years ago, so I'm about 100 pounds down than I was before that. So the being plus size thing is very much a passion of mine, and like that is absolutely an area that is completely overlooked so much of the
Yeah.
time, and that is incredible to be able to offer that to people who are like, I don't fit for whatever reason. I don't fit in normal situations and I need something a little different. Is that available to me? And this is the most accommodating, least embarrassing way to find out that information.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love hearing things like that. I love hearing the different ways that this impacts people's lives. I hear anxiety all the time. My child just has anxiety, just gets nervous before we go someplace for the first time. And that's a huge number in the population, and especially after COVID. I have not seen a statistic after COVID as far as the population and anxiety, but I have to imagine it's a huge number.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And one that just even came to mind for me is like my son's been obsessed with cars. And so like we couldn't go to the park unless the parking lot was like a really good distance from the playground because he will run into
Mm-hmm.
the parking lot and open other people's cars. And we're doing a lot better now. But for a long time I was like, we can't go anywhere because
Yeah.
we can't have any place where the parking lot is close to the door. Like there has to be like a big area. And this is technology that would like solve that. Like, can we go to this one? Should we go to this one? What, how do we know? Because the pictures just don't do it justice.
Yeah. Yeah. You can explore the things that are meaningful to you. And that's what makes it so powerful with the virtual tours. So with AbleVu, certainly the virtual tours are best practice. But if a business doesn't have a virtual tour right off the bat, they can still create a business profile and then come back and add a virtual tour down the road. But that at least like we're trying to guide them to include the pictures that would be meaningful to people. But you just never know what somebody's looking for because they might be looking for the seat size, they might be looking for the distance between the seats, they might be looking for the restroom. It might be somebody with a hearing disability that doesn't want to sit by an open like an open kitchen that would be too loud and distracting because they wouldn't be able to hear whoever they're sitting and talking to. There could be somebody with PTSD that just wants to know where the exits are. Like the uses are endless. Like so much, like such a universal tool that could be used in so many different types of applications.
I'm just I'm just blown away. Like this is just incredible. I'm so happy that I get to like share about this on my little podcast here. Like this is truly going to change the world. And
Yes, I hope so.
and it's because you pursued this dream even when it didn't look like much, even when it was a little tiny baby and
Yeah,
no one else was really taking it seriously yet because you held on to it and nurtured it. It's
yeah,
coming. Like it's coming to change the whole world.
yes, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to so one of my dreams for this business too that just lights my soul on fire is so with AbleVu, we are there's like it like kind of like an affiliate type of opportunity. And I had talked to a couple of organizations in the disabilities, like major national organizations in the disability space, that are potentially interested in like using this as part of their vocational training. So vocational training programs are teaching job skills to students with disabilities. And they're always looking for like volunteer opportunities to practice job skills, or they're looking for places that will employ their students with disabilities. And this could be something where a person with a disability could walk into a business and say, I'm a person with a disability. This business listing would be really meaningful to me because X, Y, and Z. And, would you consider adding a business listing to AbleVu? Hands on the information, walk away. If that business signs up, that whatever they hand them, a QR code or whatever would be associated with that student, and that student would receive some sort of financial payout from being a part of that affiliate program. And so, first of all, employment for people with disabilities is difficult. A lot of people are not employed for various reasons. This is something that could provide, some financial support to somebody with a disability, could empower them to be a self-advocate, and also help build a bigger platform that will have an impact on the world. Like that is like the full circle, like best version of AbleVu.
Amazing. I'm so excited for this. This is just incredible. So as we wrap up, is there anything, like inspiring that you want to say to all these people who, are struggling with their own little ideas, that could be something big, but it's so hard to see the sunshine when things are not going, the way that you're hoping that they would go.
I guess I always say follow your heart. And I know that is such a like an overused term, but I can't emphasize it enough. This was something that was on my heart for so many years. And when I would talk about it, I had a completely different like feeling in my body, like a totally different level of excitement in my body when I would like talk about this idea that I had. And even when it was itty bitty and like not guaranteed, I just still, like, I, with all the knowing in my body, knew that this is what I was supposed to do in the world. And so I just had to keep going back to that feeling, like going back to that thought, that feeling, like, I know this is in me for a reason. Like, that thought, that idea was put in me for a reason. And I just don't want to let it fall by the wayside. Like, it's something that could change somebody's life. And so I want to make sure it happens.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this with me and with
Yeah, thank you
everyone.
for having me. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
It's been a really beautiful conversation, and I'm just so excited. Other than waiting for AbleVu to come out, what else can we do to follow you and follow this business?
Well, currently the platform is still AbleEyes, so it's ableeyes.org. So AbleEyes.org. Eventually that will fizzle, like we'll turn that off, that platform off, and it will be AbleVu.com, and that's AbleVu.com. And right now all of our social accounts are AbleEyes, or at AbleEyes, or at AbleEyes for Disabilities. So, anybody that would follow us, of course, testimonials, anyone can go onto our website and make requests. Whether it's a business owner that would like to potentially have a business listing, they can make that request on our website. Or if it's a user that, really wants to just see something in the world, if they send the request, we'll reach out to the business. Can't guarantee that the business says yes, but we'll definitely reach out and say, like, this would be really meaningful to someone if you would, have a business listing, so that they would feel comfortable visiting.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. I hope that you have an amazing day, and then I hope that this blows up and just takes over the world.
Well, thank you so much. It was so fun talking to you.
You too. Have a great day. Bye.
You do. Bye.
Oh my goodness gracious, what a thrilling conversation and what an honor. Like, personally, like to hear about this incredible idea that has now turned into reality, and how Meegan got to work with Grant Cardone, and like how incredible that is. And just, this is such an incredible story, and I hope that so many people get to hear about it, and that we can get this platform, AbleVu, to everywhere, to everyone in the world who needs it. So here are my very favorite takeaways. Number 1, you cannot summarize a child with a test. Number 2, the universe had a different plan for me. Number 3, I have never wavered in my knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do in the world. Number 4, I'm not doing this for approval. I'm doing it for me and for the world. Number 5, follow your heart. Number 6, I know this thought was put in me for a reason. And number 7, my idea could change the world. I am so inspired by Meegan and everything that she has done. Please go to ablevu.com. It's AbleVu.com to check out this incredible website and everything she's done with it. You can also follow her on all social platforms at AbleEyes for Disabilities. I'm just blown away by Meegan's story, and it's going to change the world. It's going to change the world. And what really inspires me about this is that we all have this capacity too. We can all change the world with our incredible ideas. Like, you have that power too. So thank you so much for coming to listen to my podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody. Let's get this story of this incredible idea turned into reality, turned into, world-changing status. Let's get this to everyone possible. So I know that there's someone in your life who could use this technology, who could use this information to improve their quality of life. So please share it. I would love it if you followed the podcast and left a review. It means so much to me that you are here. Don't forget to come back next week, because we have more amazing episodes coming up, and I'm going to leave you with a song. Have an absolutely incredible day. I heard worth it, but still I hesitate. So many just enjoy the ride, but that's not how I feel inside. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. Forcefully it's pulling, constraining violently. So long I felt the pain, wondered if I'm going insane. These bars feel like a cage, but perhaps they keep me safe. For freedom I call and come, but with it I would fall. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. There's pain pressing on my chest. I'm trying my best. I know I'm supposed to endure, but how I'm not quite sure. Alone it feels unfair. Is anyone there? Suddenly I see the one who rides with me. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help fight for control on this roller coaster. On this roller coaster.